Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on 8051 microcontroller. So in the previous lectures we had looked into the mode 1 programming and then mode 2 programming, and we had looked into some of the examples. So how actually we can how actually we can configure our timers in terms of mode 1 and then mode 2. So in today's lecture, we shall look into the basics of serial communication. So what is serial communication? How actually it is being done? Some of the basic parts we are going to discuss in today's lecture. Now, let us see what is a communication. Okay. So when it comes to communication in terms of any computer architecture, there are basically two different types. One is parallel and then one more is serial. Now if you look at the parallel configuration, the parallel communication configuration, often 8 or more lines is being used over here in order to transfer the data from one end to the another end. Now if you look at this particular example over here, there is an sender and then there is a receiver. Both the sender and receiver are being connected with 8 different wires. So that means using these 8 different wires, they are going to send 8 bit of data at a time. Okay, so all the 8 bits which are present in a register, suppose if you take 8051 architecture, basically it is a 8 bit architecture. I can send the whole 8 bit data at a single time. That is that if you consider in terms of speed, or if you consider in terms of clock cycles, the time required to send all the 8 bit of data to the from sender to receiver, it is going to take only one single clock cycle. The whole uh, sending of data is being done in only one single clock cycle. So basically the parallel type of communications what we are having, these are being used. Suppose if you have a shorter distance, okay, the distance between the sender and the receiver, if it is shorter in terms of distance, then we can go for the parallel communication. The another type of communication what we are having is a serial communication. So here we are going to send the data from sender to receiver single bit by bit. Okay, at a time I can send only one bit of data from sender to receiver. Okay, so this particular type of communication is being used if the sender and then the receiver are being located at a farther distance. If you are having such type of scenarios, then we can go for serial communication. Okay, why actually we are going, why actually the serial communication is meant for the longer distance? Why not we can go for the parallel communication? Now if you take in terms of parallel communication, as we said, all the 8 bit of data what we are having, that is going to be sent in only one clock cycle. But if you want to send the data in terms of serial communication, as we have said, I can send only one bit of data at a time. So if you want to transfer this, one clock cycle is required in order to send the data from uh, sender to receiver. Now if you take 8 bit of data, here it is going to take 8 clock cycles. Compared to your parallel communication, the serial communication is going to take more number of clock cycles. If it is going to take more number of clock cycles, then the time required to send the data from the sender to receiver, it is going to be more when it is compared to the parallel. But the thing is, we said that this is going to be used for longer communication, and then this is going to be used for the shorter communications. Why this parallel communication is not being used in terms of longer distances? Now if you take a look at this, here there is only one line I need from the sender and to receiver. But if you take over here, the number of lines are going to increase. If you take a copper wire, let us consider we are having a copper wire. Okay, so the copper wire required in terms of if you take in terms of copper wire, here only one single copper wire is sufficient. But if you take over here, 8 number of copper wires are required to form this particular architecture. Now here if you take a look at this parallel communication, then the hardware requirement is going to increase. Then if the hardware requirement is going to increase, then the cost to implement this particular architecture is also going to increase. That is why the parallel communications are being used if we have a shorter distance between the sender and receiver, and the serial communication is being used if we have the longer distance between the sender and receiver. Okay, now let us look into so how actually it is being done. Suppose if you are having any communication, if you want to send data from one end to another end, then we at the transmitting end will be using parallel in serial out. Okay, since we have 8 bit of data, those 8 bit of data need to be converted in terms of serial forms. That is, the D0 should be first and then the D7 bit should be at the last. So in order to do that particular thing, we will be using the data, the 8-bit data is being fed into a parallel in shift register, and the output of that particular register is going to be a serial data which is being uh, given. Okay, now once at the transmitting end, the 8-bit data is being fed into parallel in serial out, so the output of this particular register is going to be a serial data, and that serial data we are going to send through the transmitter, and at the receiving end we'll be receiving the data in terms of serially. So we need to convert that particular serial data which is being received at the receiving end, and then it has to be converted into an 8-bit data. So in order to do that, at the receiving end we'll be using serial in parallel out shift register in order to convert that particular data into a 8-bit data. Okay, now since when the distance is too short, the digital signal can be transferred as simple as our wire and requires no modulation. And when the distance is more, at that time what we need to do, we need to use some of the amplifiers, because the signal what we are going to send, there will be some signal degradation after if it is going to travel for a longer distance. So in between we need to add some of the amplifiers in order to amplify the signal. So suppose if you are having, if you are transmitting logic 1, so the logic 1 that it is going, if you convert that into voltage, it will be somewhere in terms of 5 volt. Okay, if that 5 volt is going to travel for longer distance, uh, the same 5 volt cannot be reached at the receiving end. There will be a signal degradation, so that you will be getting somewhere around 3 volt or 3.3 volt. So that has to be taken care of. So in between what we are going to use, we are going to use the amplifiers in order to amplify, in order to boost that particular signal to 5 volt signal. So these type of amplifications what we are doing, those particular things can be performed in terms of modem, and we call those things as modulator and then demodulator. Okay, now these ones and zeros, these are in terms of a digital format, and but when you are sending in terms of anything in terms of real time scenarios, we will be using the signals to be analog in nature. So we'll be converting those ones and zeros into audio tones, and those audio tones, the conversion of zeros and ones to audio tones, those can be performed by using modulators. The modulators will be used at what? These modulators will be used at the sender end, where the conversion will be taking place into analog form, and at the same end, at the receiver, at the same time at the receiver end, we need to convert those analog signals which the analog signals which have been received. Okay, those should be converted back to what? Zeros and ones. So the conversion of analog signal into those digital signals in terms of zeros and ones, we call those things as what? Demodulators. Okay, now basically here we can send the data in terms of synchronous and then asynchronous. In synchronous we can transfer the block of data at a time, but whereas in asynchronous we can transfer a single byte at a time. That means single byte in the sense 8 bit of data we can send at a time, but whereas there is no restriction that we need to transfer only 8 bit of data or we need to transfer only 16 bit of data. That type of restriction is not present in synchronous. Why actually this uh, uh, restriction is not present in synchronous? Why actually it is being that, as the name suggests, synchronous. Now if you take a look at this particular, if I am having over here, let me take sender end over here, okay, and I'm having a receiver end over here. Let me take that these particular things are apart from somewhere around 100 meters, something like that. Okay, let us consider a scenario where these are apart 100 meters, okay, and these are being connected with a single line. Okay, now this particular at the sender end I'm using let us consider that I'm having a clock of, let me take, this is going to be in terms of 10 megahertz. Okay, and here also I'm having a clock, a same clock, which is what, which is 10 megahertz. Okay, this particular clock frequency what I'm having, this 10 megahertz, this is going to be in synchronized with this particular receiver end. So the both the clocks, let me call this as C1 and let me call this as C2. The C1 and C2, both these clocks are synchronized. When the both the clocks are synchronized, the data which is being transferred, those will be in synchronized with the clocks. Okay, when the clocks are synchronized, there is no uh, missing of data. Okay, there is no missing of data. The data cannot be missed from the sender end to the receiver end. The receiver will be, since it is synchronized with this particular clock, the receiver will be knowing that this particular data has been sent. Okay, and you might ask that okay, how actually it will come to know that whether the transferring of data which is being done, whether it has been finished or not. That can be a scenario, right? So in order to do that, once the block of data has been sent, we will be sending some synchronous bytes. Okay, that synchronous bytes, once those synchronous bytes have been sent from sender to receiver, okay, from sender to receiver, the receiver will come to know that, so this is the end of this particular block of data. Okay, but since here the clocks are synchronized, there is no mismatch of any data from sender to receiver. But when you are taking asynchronous, as the name suggests, that the clocks of a sender end and the receiver end, it might be same or it might not be. Okay, if you consider, let me take that a sender is using a 10 megahertz clock, but whereas the receiver using, let me take this as 70 megahertz. Okay, so when you are considering this, if you look at this particular clock, this is a lower clock frequency, but whereas this is a higher clock frequency. Okay, so the clocks of these particular sender end and the receiver end, they are different, and hence they are asynchronous in nature. Okay, so how actually we can do that? We will be doing, we will be sending a single byte of data at a time. That means 8 bit of data is being sent to the, from the sender to the receiver. How actually we can synchronize these data, that is going to that actually we are going to study in this particular sessions. Okay, so in order to perform this asynchronous operations, there are special ICs which are being made by many manufacturers for, which is specially meant for serial communication. Okay, so those two different ICs are those two different protocols. I cannot term these as ICs. We can term these things as protocols. Okay, So those two different protocols are UART and then USART. So UART stands for Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter, whereas USART abbreviation you can do it as Universal Synchronous Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. Okay. Now here, as the name suggests, this is asynchronous in nature, UART, whereas USART you can use it in terms of synchronous, as well as you can use the same IC in terms of asynchronous also. But when it comes to the thing, the UART, what we are having, this is widely used platform. Okay, why widely used protocol? Why? Actually, because in real time scenarios we don't expect all the hardwares what we have developed, those hardwares cannot be running at the same clock frequencies. Okay, so because all the hardwares what we are having, they will be running at the different clock frequencies, hence we need to go for asynchronous receiver transmitter. Okay, since those things are different in nature, the UART is being used widely. Okay, now let us see the basics of transmission, how actually transmission is being done. So if you are transmitting data one way at a time, it is referred as half duplex, and if you are transmitting data both the ways, then we call it as full duplex. Now before moving on to this particular thing, let us see the different types. The simplex form is the basic of any transmission. Okay, in this simplex form I am going to send data from sender to receiver only. The receiver cannot send back the data from this receiving end to the transmitter. There is only one way of communication over here. This receiver cannot respond back to this transmitter again. If you want to do that, again what we will be having, we need to put a transmitter and a receiver. Okay, so since there is only one way communication, that means I can send only from one sender to the receiver, but the receiver cannot respond back to the transmitter. They came up with what? They came up with a half duplex format. In half duplex, what happens is that we'll be having a transmitter and the receiver. So here, this particular thing what you are observing, this is going to be a trans receiver. Okay, so it can transmit as well as it can receive, and again at the receiver end there will be a trans receiver, that means it can transmit and then receive. Okay, the channel, if you look at this particular diagram over here, they have given in a different way, but the channel what you are having over here, the channel remains only one. Okay, the same channel is being used in order to transmit the data from one end to other end, and in order to again the same channel is being used in order to receive the data from receiving end to the sender end. Okay, now since the channel is only one over here, I can perform the sending of data from here to here, and at the since when I'm sending the data from here to here, this particular channel is being occupied. I cannot use the channel for from this end to this end, and if you want to send that back, I'll be using the same channel for this particular program. Okay, but if you look at this particular operation over here, I'll be performing only one operation. Either I'll be sending or either I'll be receiving. Because why? Because the channel is only one. Since I am performing only one way communication, see here I'll be sending this particular data, and then after once this data has been reached over here, then only I can receive back the data. There is only one way of communication in between this. Okay, that is why this particular format is being called as what? It is being called as half duplex format. Since I cannot receive at the same time, there is a disadvantage. You can call this as a disadvantage, right? So in order to overcome this disadvantage, they came up with what? full duplex format. So again, in full duplex format, at the receiver end we'll be having a trans receiver, so it can transmit and it can receive, and at the other end also we'll be having the trans receiver, so it can transmit and receive. But the channels, if you observe over here in full duplex format, the channels what we are having, we'll be having two different channels. When you are having two different channels, you can send at the same time, you can receive as well. So this is why this format, since I'm performing both the operation, I'm sending as well as I'm receiving, I'll be calling this particular format as full duplex format. So these are the three different types of communication formats which are being used. As of now, in the current scenarios, full duplex format is only being used, and this half duplex and then simplex are almost obsolete. Okay, now how actually we can perform, as we have said, UART is going to be the most widely used protocol. Okay, when you are saying protocol, what is meant by a protocol? It is a set of rules. Okay, we need to stick to that particular rules in order to send and receive the data. So what are those rules? So we are having different types of protocols. We are having in terms of UART, we are having USART, and we are having those AMBA protocols, and all those things we are having. Okay, but to this lecture we'll be sticking on to UART. Okay, UART is a protocol. So what actually this protocol is, that we are going to study. So we have, as we said, we are having a sender and receiver, both are running at different clocks, so I cannot synchronize these clocks. So how actually we can perform the data transfer so that there is no data mismatch. Okay, so the data should be packed, and we should consider that how many bits constitute a character, and when the data begins and when the data ends, that we need to perform. Okay, these and all are the things what we need to consider when you are looking into a protocol. As we know, asynchronous serial data communication is widely used for character oriented transfer. Here in this UART, the character, in the sense what, it is going to be only 1 byte of data. So for block oriented, as we know, we will be using synchronous method. So this block of data, the data this byte of data, that means 8 bits of data, how actually we are doing, we will be placing a start bit and a stop bit. The placing of start bit and a stop bit is called as framing. So we call that one, we'll be taking a 8 bit of data, and then we'll be adding a start bit, and then we'll be adding a stop bit. That particular whole data what we are having, that is called one frame. Okay, now usually the start bit will be always only 1 bit, but the stop bit can be 1 bit or 2 bits. It is left to the designer whether he wants to use only 1 bit as a stop bit, or whether he wants to use 2 bits to be a stop bit. That is left to him. Okay, now what should be the start bit and what should be the stop bits? The start bit will be always logic 0. Okay, and the stop bits will be always logic 1. Okay, start bit should be logic 0 and the stop bit should be logic 1. The stop bit can be only a single bit, or it can be a 2 bit. Now let us look into an example. It can be understood in a better way over here. Here you can observe that I am going to send an ASCII character A. Okay, so if you convert that ASCII character A in terms of binary format, then the 8-bit binary value will be 01000001. Okay, as we know that what I should have, usually when we are sending the data, always we will be making our bit to be what, our the sending bit will be made as logic 1. So logic 1 is what it means, that the sending part is in idle mode. Okay, so once it receives, if you look at this particular here, since it is logic 1, that means no, there is no transfer. Once it receives this logic 0, this as we said, the start bit should be always logic 0. So this particular bit it will consider, once the logic 0 has been received for one bit, then it will consider that okay, the data is being received. I should get this data from the next clock cycle onwards. Whatever the values I'm getting, I'll be taking those things in terms of what to be a data. So this is going to be a start bit, and then from here onwards, what we are going to send, we are going to send the 8 bit of data what we are having. So the transmission begins with the start bit with the D0, the LSB, then the rest of bits until MSB is being reached, and finally one stop bit. Okay, so this stop bit can be, as we know, as we said, this stop bit can be only one single stop bit, or it can be what, or it can be two stop bits. Okay, and once the stop bit has been received after 8 bit of data, then it will consider that okay, the data has been received properly. So the logic 0 is being referred after, once the stop bit has been received. If you give logic 0, it will consider that to be as what, that to be a space. That means again there will be one more data which is being coming. Okay, now this is how the data is being done. This is how actually the framing is being done in terms of serial communication, by placing start bits and then stop bits. So what is the data transfer rate? Okay, so we need to send the number of bits to be sent per second. Okay, the rate of data transfer in serial communication is stated as bps. Okay, it is called bits per second. Okay, and another word, widely used terminology for bps, is nothing but baud rate. Baud rate is nothing but what, it is going to be bits per second. In modern terminology we call it as baud rate. And as far as terminology is concerned, both the baud rates and bps are same, and we use these terms interchangeably. So don't get confused with baud rate and then bps. Both the things, both the terminologies are same. Okay, so the data transfer of a given computer has been being developed, or it is being improved in terms of communication. When it comes to IBM PCs, the maximum data rate can be something like 100 to 9600, with a baud rate of 100 to 9600. And when the Pentium PCs came, at that time they had a data rate of as high as baud rate of 56,000. Okay, in asynchronous communication, baud rate is limited to 100,000, that is 100k bits per second. Okay, now in the lab sessions you will be looking into how actually what is this baud rate. Basically we are having baud rate to be 2600, and then we are having no, not 2600, we are having 2000 baud rate to be 2400, and we are having 4800, 9600, and 11,005 to 11,5200. We are having different types of baud rates. Okay, so most widely used baud rate is this, that is our 9600. Okay, so this is all regarding the baud rate. So basically baud rate is nothing but the number of bits which is being transferred per second. Okay, so we'll see a thorough study of this particular UART in terms of RS-232 standards in the next lecture. Thank you.